Before the sun even considers rising, there is a man already moving. You can picture him. Musashi steps slow and deliberate. The world still wrapped in darkness, while his intention burns like an ember no one notices. This is the part of a warrior's life that dissolves into shadow. The part no one imagines when they whisper his name with awe. They see the duels, the victories, the legend, but they never see the path he walked while the rest of the world slept. The cold gravel beneath his feet, or the silence that pressed against his ribs like a weight. You know this silence, even if you've never named it. It's the quiet room you enter when no one else is awake. When the facade drops and the truth stares back at you without blinking. It's the place where every man finally hears the price of the life he claims he wants. There are sacrifices. The world never applauds friendships that fade like smoke. Comforts that feel warm in the moment but rot the spirit over time. Softness that must be burned away for the mind to sharpen. Musashi understood this before he ever touched a blade. The path is not merely difficult. It is lonely. It is misunderstood. It is ink dragged across a blank page, black and deliberate, leaving behind a trail that no one understands until years later, when the ink has dried and the world says, "Ah, yes, he was destined." They never see the drafts soaked in failure. You, too, know what it feels like to move through life with a shadow tied to your heel. You sense the weight others don't recognize, the burden of wanting more than comfort or applause. Society romanticizes the warrior's life strength, clarity, discipline, but it forgets the quiet grave where these things are buried and later reborn. A real warrior's life is not glamorous. It is grave, inward, etched with decisions no one will ever acknowledge. And this is where your own path begins, in the darkness before dawn, in the choices no one sees, in the quiet truth that your transformation will never be witnessed by the crowd. There were nights when Musashi sat alone after battle, his body aching, his breath still trembling with the residue of survival. The flicker of a lone candle revealed nothing except a man staring into an interior storm. No crowds, no glory, just the whisper of his own conscience brushing against the edges of his skull. It was here, in the dark, that the true duel began. He once wrote, "A warrior defeats himself before he defeats others," and he meant it. The battlefield was never the true danger. The enemy was never the true opponent. The real confrontation happened when the world turned silent and the night held up its mirror. You know this mirror. You've faced it in your quietest hours. When the noise of the world finally collapses and you're left alone with the parts of yourself you avoid during the day, the insecurities, the doubts, the fear of inadequacy that presses against your ribs like a cold blade. These shadows do not shout. They whisper, and sometimes the whisper is far more dangerous than the sword. Musashi wrestled with his own shadow long before he became a legend. He questioned his pride, his hesitation, his flaws. In the moon's unblinking gaze, he confronted the truth that every warrior lives two lives, the one others see, crafted for survival, and the one he must survive in silence. When the moon hangs in the sky like a watchful eye, a man feels exposed not to others, but to himself. He sees the corners of his mind where fear hides like an animal. He sees the truth he pretends isn't there. Modern men fight similar battles, though the weapons have changed. Anxiety slips in through glowing screens. Insecurity grows like mold in unspoken corners. Men feel the weight of expectations, but have no language for their own wounds, so they fight in silence. They fight alone. They fight the inner specter that no one else acknowledges. There is a moment, in every night, when the world looks away, and in that moment, the mirror appears. You either look into it, or you turn away and remain untested. But know this: a warrior is shaped not by daylight victories, but by the shadows he dares to wrestle in the night. Imagine Musashi alone in a forest clearing, the morning frost still clinging to the grass. No audience, no opponent, just a man swinging a wooden sword until the skin on his palms splits and the blood stains the handle. There is no applause in this place, only the sound of effort and breath, and a kind of violent devotion. Musashi did not train to be admired. He trained because the alternative stagnation was death to the spirit. This was the ancient acceptance, the understanding that obscurity is the birthplace of mastery. The unseen hours matter more than any visible achievement. Discipline, for a warrior, is not a performance. It is a private covenant, sealed in silence, a promise he makes to himself when the world is not looking. Modern men, however, are suffocating in a world obsessed with visibility. Validation has become currency. Applause has become addiction. But real growth, The kind that rewires a man from within happens in the dark, where no one claps, where no one says good job, where the only thing you hear is your own doubt mocking you. Musashi sharpened his blade in solitude, sparks flying into empty air. No witness, no comfort, only repetition, only humility. You have your own version of this clearing. Maybe it's the work you do when you're exhausted. Maybe it's the discipline that no one notices because you never talk about it. Maybe it's the habit you maintain even when there's no reward. This is your forge. This is where the invisible sparks mark your transformation. The world will only see the result. It will never see the hours you endured with no recognition. But that is the nature of the warrior's discipline. It is meant to be unseen. It's meant to challenge you, not decorate you. And the day you stop needing applause is the day you finally begin to sharpen for real. Remember, a blade polished for others will always rust, but a blade polished in the dark becomes dangerous without needing to prove anything. Approximately 360 words. Musashi's true enemy was never the man standing across from him. It was the part of himself that resisted growth, the lazy impulse, the comforting excuse, the quiet pride that whispered, "You've done enough." The hardest duel is the one fought without an opponent, where the blade points not outward but inward. Musashi waged this war every day, rejecting comfort, rejecting softness, rejecting the small voice that tried to seduce him back into mediocrity. You have this enemy too. It moves quietly inside you, disguised as harmless habits. Procrastination, distraction, emotional numbness, an invisible arrow that pierces deeper than steel. These arrows don't kill a man quickly. They drain him slowly, convincing him to settle for a life smaller than the one he secretly desires. The modern battlefield is internal, where the mind becomes a wasteland of unfinished intentions. A warrior's wisdom cuts through the fog. Master the self, and no enemy can surprise you. Because once you understand the architecture of your own weakness, the world loses its power to break you. Musashi spent a lifetime examining his own fractures, not to judge himself, but to fortify himself. He understood that pride blinds more warriors than any sword. He understood that hesitation is death. He understood that the mind, if left untrained, becomes the most dangerous adversary a man can face. Your inner enemy does not want you dead. It wants you comfortable. And comfort softens a man until he forgets what he was capable of. But something in you refuses to be tamed, doesn't it? Something in you senses that behind your hesitation lies the life you were meant to inhabit. The battle is already happening. You're just learning to see it. When you finally turn inward, with the same intensity you turn toward the world, you'll discover the opponent that has always been shaping your life from the shadows. And when you defeat him, even once, everything changes. It's easy to imagine solitude as a punishment, but Musashi did not live decades without attachments because he was bitter. He lived that way because clarity demands distance. When a man is surrounded by noise, he forgets the sound of his own voice. When he's surrounded by comforts, he forgets the strength of his own spine. Musashi entered solitude deliberately, like stepping into a winter that strips a man down to what is essential. Society fears loneliness, so it distracts itself with noise, scrolling, talking, consuming, numbing. But a warrior moves in the opposite direction. He walks into the cold, allowing solitude to expose his truth. In the winter silence, illusions die. You cannot lie to yourself when there is no one left to listen. You cannot pretend to be someone when no one is watching. The cold companions of solitude, stillness, silence, and self are harsh teachers, but they are honest ones. Musashi found strength in this honesty. Away from the world, he discovered who he was when no one needed him. No one praised him. No one expected anything. That is the true test of identity. Not who you are in crowds, but who you are in the quiet room where your soul stands without armor. Modern men feel disconnected despite constant connection. They feel unseen despite constant visibility. They feel lost despite constant guidance. Noise creates the illusion of company, but it cannot warm the spirit. Only solitude can do that, because only solitude reveals the roots beneath the surface. It humbles you, it exposes you, and then it begins to rebuild you from the ground up. A warrior doesn't avoid solitude, he enters it like a forge. He lets the cold carve him into something sharper, and when spring finally returns, he steps back into the world not as someone seeking warmth, but as someone carrying his own fire. Musashi understood something most men refuse to accept. Growth is cruel, not dramatic, it breaks you before it strengthens you. It humiliates you before it honors you. He was defeated many times, not publicly, but privately. In the endless hours of training where his limits mocked him, he embraced these breaks, these fractures, as necessary costs. He knew that metal cannot be shaped without force. Bones do not strengthen without stress. A blade cannot be forged without enduring the flame. Growth is pain the world cannot see, and that's what makes it so isolating. The people around you only notice the finished form, never the nights you spent doubting yourself, never the discipline you maintained while exhausted, never the failures that bent you into humility. Modern men crave strength without wanting the breaking, clarity without wanting the confusion, mastery without wanting the repetition. Musashi wouldn't have understood that desire. To him, struggle was not a detour, it was the path. There is a quiet cruelty to transformation because it demands everything you don't want to give. It asks you to lose, to embarrass yourself, to be the beginner again and again, to watch others sprint while you crawl, to trust that the pain shaping you today will become the strength guiding you tomorrow. Your own growth has left marks, internal fractures, silent disappointments, the heavy realization that becoming stronger means outgrowing versions of yourself you were once comfortable with. The forge bends metal until the metal yields, but in that yielding it becomes something new, something capable of holding an edge. You cannot become dangerous without first being broken. You cannot become wise without first being wrong. You cannot become calm without first facing storms. You didn't believe you could endure. Musashi stayed in the fire longer than others. That was all. Not more talent, more willingness to remain uncomfortable, more willingness to let the flame refine him. And if you feel the cruelty of growth pressing against your spirit right now, understand this: you are in the exact place where warriors are made. After decades of wandering, dueling, and surviving, Musashi did something the world still struggles to understand. He withdrew. He stepped into a cave on Mount Iwato and wrote the Book of 5 Rings, not in the noise of society, not with admirers circling him, but in near total isolation. This was not escape, it was ascension. Warriors throughout history understood the ancient rhythm: engage, withdraw, refine, return. Mastery requires disappearance. The modern world rejects this cycle. It demands constant access, constant output, constant presence. Men fear missing out, fear being forgotten, fear stepping away from the digital crowd. But a warrior is not shaped by presence. He is shaped by withdrawal, because in silence, truth rises. In isolation, clarity emerges. In distance, identity sharpens. Imagine Musashi walking deeper into the mountain, carrying nothing but his breath, his memory, and his truth. No audience, no validation, only the echo of his own steps. This is what it means to detach from the world without abandoning your purpose. Detachment is not rejection, it is refinement. A warrior steps away from the world not because he is weak, but because he is ready to hear a command deeper than society's noise. Modern overstimulation blinds men to their own path. You know this. You feel it each time your attention fractures into 100 small pieces. You sense the need to withdraw, even for a moment, to hear the faint voice guiding you inward. When a warrior walks away, he is not running, he is ascending. He is carving space for mastery. Musashi walked into the shadows of the cave to step into the light of his own understanding. And there is a cave in your own life, quiet, waiting, where your next evolution waits to be written. In the end, the shadows Musashi walked through did not weaken him. They purified him. They stripped him of illusion, fear, pride, and noise. They tempered him the same way oil tempers steel, subtle, unseen, but irreversible. When he finally stood before the world as a finished warrior, the world saw the blade, but never the darkness that forged it. The same truth applies to you. The silent nights you endure, the unseen work you perform, the private battles you survive, they are not signs of failure. They are the conditions required for your transformation. Modern society teaches men to fear the dark, to chase constant stimulation, to interpret solitude as brokenness. But every warrior knows the opposite. The dark is where the blade cools. The dark is where the steel hardens. The dark is where the man becomes someone he himself respects. When you embrace the unseen grind, you step into Musashi's lineage, not in swordsmanship, but in spirit. You become the kind of man who does not need to announce his evolution. You become the kind of man whose presence speaks for him. You become the kind of man who can walk into any room with the calm weight of someone forged, not taught. Imagine emerging from your own darkness, not triumphant, not theatrical, but sharpened, like a blade pulled from oil, still humming with heat, dangerous in its quiet confidence. This is what it means to let the shadow become the blade, to allow your obscurity to become your greatest ally, to understand that the world will never applaud the parts of you that matter most, and that this is a gift. A real warrior is built away from the world, and when he returns, he does not come back begging for recognition. He comes back carrying himself like a man who knows exactly what he had to walk through to stand where he stands. Walk your path, step into your shadow, let it carve you into something the world cannot break. Let the blade form in silence, then carry it with quiet dominance